Welcome to ACD Combatives, your combatives and control tactics channel. Please like, subscribe, and share.
Hey guys, this is Kurt. So I just wanted to follow up on my last video to grapple or to strike, but specifically to point out methods of striking that I was kind of showcasing on that video and some of my other videos I've done in the past about the proper way to strike. I got a comment from one of my viewers who I really liked that his comments. He was talking about his favorite liver shots and so forth like that. And that got me to think that I should have broke down my explanation of the strikes a little better. Not so much how to do them, but target surfacing and so forth. I talked about my Krav Maga instructor was also a Bas Rutten certified instructor and incorporated a lot of those Bas concepts where, remember I showed you how he was hitting because of the Pancrase rules format that he had when he fought Pancrase before he went UFC. He was champion for Pancrase and UFC, extremely well-rounded fighter, but in those rule set they had to use open hand to the face. And what I said in the video, inspired by what my commenter said, hard on soft, soft on hard. And to explain that again, if you didn't catch it, hard being a fist, be good on soft, like the body, but the face is hard because of the dense skull and there's not a lot of fat pad or anything, so a lot of times you tend to punch to the face. You can hypothetically nothing, people break their hands all the time. You've got sport boxing where they're up here in this boxing stance and they're so used to headhunting. This, not all boxers of course, I'm very much generalizing because there's so much more to boxing. It's truly an art form. Master strikers when it comes to the fists. But they're always wearing the gloves. They've got the wraps and then the gloves. So sometimes you hear cases where professional boxers get in a real street fight and they end up breaking their hand on street fight, or even in the ring with all the padded. And then you see the invent of the return. Old school fisticuffs boxing, bare knuckle boxing back in the day is now cool again. Everybody is watching bare knuckle boxing, and I love that. But if you look at traditional bare knuckle boxing, again, generically speaking, if anyone tries to tell you this is the only way and the right way and everyone else is wrong, they're trying to sell you something, don't listen to them. There are many methods to the top of the mountain. You just have to find what fits and works for you best. You should, the system of martial arts that you choose or self-defense you choose should fit you, not making you fit the system. So that's how I approach when I'm training someone or teaching or training with someone. I like to think of the concept. They could show you something and it's perfect, but perfect for them. You might have to adapt it. You see that in jiu-jitsu a lot, more so than some of the other arts like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, the stuff like that, and judo, grappling, because everybody's got different body shapes and sizes. You have to adapt a technique, especially if you like, for example, a small female officer, 5'2", 5'3", can still kick your ass and be exceptionally successful with technique. If you adapt it, if you teach her something or him something, if it's a small male, you've got to adapt it to fit their needs and their body types. And you've got to adapt the system of how you teach the system to them differently. A lot more movement, a lot of shoot, move, communicate concepts when you're smaller. You don't want to get into a close grappling range very often unless you can shoot in for a quick takedown where you're not clinching a lot. Like I wouldn't want a small female trying to clinch a 6'4" guy a lot. If they could do like a quick double leg and take him to the ground, that might be different, but I digress. We're talking about strikes. When it comes to fists and open hands. So, open hands, Bas Rutten talked about how he used open hands and he was using the hard part of the palm. And my commenter was commenting basically the same thing. He was, and I'm assuming he probably comes from traditionally a traditional martial arts background. I have a sense that he might be in Jeet Kune Do. I don't know. Commenter, let me know the system that you study, because traditional martial arts and offshoots of traditional martial arts, such as Jeet Kune Do and what I studied, Kaji Kembo, can get deep in the weeds about specific striking points, and that's important. Why is it important? Well, the Gracies have a technique called I think they call it the power slap, where somebody's pulling you and you can power assist or power slap, boom, okay, that's a perfectly good technique and very valid, easy to teach. But in traditional martial arts or some system that's a hybrid martial art that uses open hand strikes, like Jeet Kune Do or Kaji Kembo, still very self-defense. Jeet Kune Do, Kaji Kembo, these are actually MMA, but it's hybrid self-defense based MMA, not what you would see in the ring. Bas Rutten came from a karate background, and he would strike with this bony part of the hand, or even this wrist bone, and he would, like, instead of a tight hook, or if I'm from this side, tight hook, perfectly good punch, but on the street, and you don't perform it correctly, bam, you break your knuckles. An open hand strike, the same hit motion, probably not quite as powerful, because with a good hook, you're turning your whole body. This is just what ends up hitting their face. It's not arm strength at all. Matter of fact, it's hard to get a lot of strength. Like if I just sit here and pop them with my arm, I'm not going to get any strength in that. But if they pivot, you can't see my toes or the balls of my feet, but I'm actually pivoting into it. Hips, body, everything coming up off the ground, and I'm pivoting into it. And here I am doing the old Mike Tyson. He admitted this in one of his interviews or something, that occasionally he might actually miss with the hook and hit the elbow. That's old school dirty boxing, and I love it. I think that's awesome. But you're sitting here, boom, you hit with these two knuckles. That's great and dandy, and you should absolutely train sniper precision boxing and hitting, because you can still do that on the street. But if you're looking for more of a generic overall safety approach to the concept of striking on the street, open hands to the head, close hands to the body. It's very safe to do that. But hitting the head, the face with a palm strike, it's not just slapping your hand in their face like, blah! Like, what was that, Aliens? You're not doing that. Although you could, Krav guys and Jeet Kune Do and other styles that practice like eye gouging. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about palm strikes. And I've seen systems that really emphasize the perfect palm strike. Like, I don't get too much into the weeds on that, but you'll see my hand is cocked back and I'm shooting up. When you see my punching, you might see that too. More of a linear punching. Not linear like Jeet Kune Do, Wing Chun, for example, where they might run. I'm not a Wing Chun style, so I admit that up front. I'm interpreting their system of punching. Could be absolutely wrong. So I'm here, very center line, and they actually hit with the smaller knuckles, and they do a lot of conditioning for that. Nothing wrong with that. You're conditioning for it. The way I studied in Kaji Kembo, it was more of a vertical or upside down, inverted, and you're still hitting with these two knuckles. But and when you're closing your fist, you see this in old school boxing. You see them in that traditional stance like that, which is neither here or there, but they would twist, and they did a lot of vertical punching. So they would were very careful to hit with these two knuckles. And you'll see that when I throw my overhand right, but I'll do it here as an overhand left, southpaw, so you can see it on video better. I don't come around like a traditional punch. I call it a casting punch. I don't call it this. It's called this. Like Sambo fighters love the casting punch, MMA. But I turn the hand around, and I'm still hitting with these two knuckles. So I'll cast and hit with those two knuckles. So that is what I'm doing. If you see that, it's not wrong. It's not right. It's the way I do it, because the way I punch and strike with a closed hand is always designed as if I'm doing it without gloves. Even when I'm training with gloves, I pretend like I'm not wearing gloves. And as I get older, my hands get more feeble. I train with gloves all the time, but I still like to hit Bob, and I'm never going full strength on Bob because there's times where I've actually hurt my elbow with tendonitis type from just hitting Bob too much, too hard. But you would see that with Bas Rutten, and I don't do it justice, but he would like come through and everything was like chambering. He would like be throwing this punch with everything he had. He was already chambered for this one. Everything, he did a lot of like twisting using, you know, strike from one side of the body, which would chamber him for the next strike. So that's what I'm kind of getting at. If you're going to strike closed hand, completely fine. To the face, again, completely fine. As long as you're prepared for the possibility to break your hand, which is something I don't like to do. I don't like to get my hand broken. Think about how you're punching and how it's going to relate. It's going to look a little different and feel a little different than classical boxing, where they're almost, you know, their hands are loose when they're practicing because they're wearing gloves. You're not going to have that benefit when you're fighting on the street. And so when you see everything I do, I design it so it's going to. I don't design it. I stole all these concepts from my traditional Kaiji Kembo background. I've trained with Jeet Kune Do guys. I train with Krav Maga guys, and I've done research on traditional fisticuffs. You know, why they struck the way they did, very linear, because you throw some of these huge bear paw type swings, and it's so powerful you break your hands. You can still get those type of movements in, especially the way Bas Rutten did it, with an open palm striking with this bony part of the palm. Boom! And then for a grappler, it's nice because your hand's already open and you can get into whatever, in this case the plum I was executing, but it's easier to flow. You see that in Sambo, where they might throw this rear casting punch and it's actually just a ploy to get into a body clinch. Or they intend to hit, but it doesn't work out, and they always have that backup plan for the body clinch. Hope I made myself clear, because I don't think I mentioned that in the last video, because the video was about when to grapple, when to strike. This is about breaking down the strikes yourself. You still want the good concept of, I like a forward-facing stance, a squared-off stance. You see Bas Rutten fought that way, Mike Tyson fought that way. These are people that want to have equal power from both sides, and that's why I've adopted that concept of, you know, a forward-facing stance. In the military, you would do that, and in law enforcement, they teach you to have your body armor facing the threat and not off to the side. Same concept. You can have equal mobility from both sides, equal strength from both sides. I super digress, and I apologize. Again, the whole point of striking with the palm is to be tactical about it, not just slapping, but did you hear the difference? The thump versus a slap. So boom, right here with the hard point. There's also ridge hand strikes and stuff like that, or a manta strike where you're hitting with this bone. I could get into the weeds, but if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. Thank you and stay safe.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out.